There are those who say that in 2008, is it, Alan was able to get 35.2% of the votes, and then Nana made 47.96%. Then subsequently, Alan managed 20.40. Nana Akufo-Addo got 77.92. So going forward, he should be able to tell that it's bad. He should save the party cost. He should save them all of the trouble of having to go around and campaign and to do this project of October 18.
Save the party costs. It was their former chairman who said that democracy is expensive. So they are aware. That party is fully aware of the cost involved in democracy. It is undemocratic to use those, things that you have enumerated as a basis to pressurize a person to step down. It's undemocratic. Now, Alan, if Alan drops out of this race, it will be the end of his political career. Why am I saying this? In the Legon 17 contestants, he came second, and the party constitution required that he should have gone to a second round with Nana Akufo-Addo. The same considerations you talked about, cost, people are tired, and all those things, he gave up. To the annoyance of his supporters. This time round, if he does the same thing, I can tell you, that will be the end of his political career. Indeed, a group has come out in Kumasi stating clearly that Alan should continue to be in that race. So Alan also has constituents that he needs to satisfy for his political career to be alive in future.
Yes, the group called them. They said they claim to be. I don't know.
They say they are. What
are yes. Yeah, I'm only being a bit cautious. Okay. That's all. They are polling station executives. That's quite an important segment of the party.
They are part of those who will be voting.
Will be voting. So it's not. I'm not saying so to underestimate them, but just to make the point that why Alan thinks he must appeal to the wider network. But you see, we shouldn't forget that in 2010, and I have their figures here, the number of delegates was 106,590. It's the first time they applied this expanded electoral college format. Quite a lot of those who are voting October are part of this network. Of course, many more would have joined because we are now talking of 144. So the 2007 format, I think, is history in terms of even the numbers. The delegates then was 2,293. That's history. If we have any basis to use to interrogate issues, it should be the 2010 one. And then, of course, looking forward to October 18th. Even the super delegates one is also not very strong when it comes to the numbers, as I indicated. But that is what I believe, that truly, Alan perhaps should aim at making a better impact than the abysmal show that the super delegates showed. But as for winning, it's completely out of contest. It won't happen.
I see. A few of your comments here. Sofo Yamusa in Kumbungu says, congratulations to Nanado for the resounding victory last week. The aftermath of the successful election is, however, too scary. The leadership must rise up to the occasion. Indeed, Ghanaians will not forgive the NPP if they fail to win power in 2016. Spike in Ohio says that even though the delegates have overwhelmingly given Nanado the nod, some of us have serious reservations about that. I sincerely think a new face would have done the NPP good. Failure to win power in 2016 will spell doom for the party. Ata Imoro in Wellense says, why are we doing this to ourselves as a party? We all can predict that Nanado will surely lead the NPP into the 2016 election. In effect, therefore, all the other 3 should be allowed to decide whether or not to contest him on October 18. This is good for our internal democracy. Ibrahim Kopa in Tamale says, it will be good to forgo the 18th October Congress to save time, cost, and energy for the aspirants and the party as a whole, since the dynamics that led to the outcome of the first result will not be different from the first. I like Ms. Aiko to try and help us to understand that. Is that true? That if all the 3 who are left now, the other 3, decided to say we are not going anymore, the 18th October Congress will not be held?
Of course, it will only be an acclamation, because it means there will be only one candidate. Because I don't see how Nana will say he will not file for the 18th. He will file. And if the rest all decide not to go forward, then of course we'll have an acclamation. I don't...
You have an acclamation, but the event will be held anyway.
Oh yes, but just for
so the claim about reduction of cost is incorrect, is
In other words, you don't have to go and print ballot papers and all that. You just go, there's only one individual, and you get the representatives going to acclaim him.
Okay.
So it would surely lead to, because I am not too much particularly enthused by that argument. My worry is that if you go to a contest and you lose, you should come back and do your own analysis.
Right.
What is it that led me, to this performance? And then ask yourself whether you can turn the skills within the period left. It's always good to say that the numbers are small, 700 as against 140 and all that. But if you do your own analysis, then you can come to the conclusion whether there's the need for you to go forward. Obama said he lost one election to go to Senate once because he did not do a poll. He assumed he was popular and he went in and lost. The next time around, he did a good poll and he realized he could make it. He went and then won. So I'm calling for analysis. Let those who lost come back, do that. Because you see, you're going to campaign among delegates and you expect these same delegates to vote for you. I have seen people who have lost primaries after they've been so much assured that they were going to make it. And they've performed all the custom necessary to be performed. And yet the results leave them almost shattered. So one should be careful. It's not just saying this number is small. I mean, you may be, having ideas, and dreaming. But if your analysis of what is happening on the ground, you listen to the ground, it's telling you that the people say this is the time of a particular individual and we want to support him. I do not think that it is worth it, wasting time, money, resources, and going through that kind of, election. I don't think so. I have done my analysis and I'm saying that please advise yourself, listen to the ground. Between now and that time, there's still, sometimes you withdraw from an election and it helps rather. You withdraw from an election and it may help you. It puts you in a position. The party always looks like want to find out who loves us, who is doing something to help the party, apart from even helping yourself. And there are things we do, they say, this man is not helping the party. What he's doing is not helping the party at all. Haven't you heard? You are there. You are there.
But it's not intimidation, is it?
Mouth people who do that sort of analysis. But I'm saying that as an analyst, and sometimes people put you into even fashions and say that because somebody has done some analysis and you look like you could run as a vice presidential candidate for this one, therefore you belong to this, and therefore you yourself are seen as a danger and a threat to some people who should rather be, and then those who support the leaders should know what to say. I'm telling you, although you say those things do not matter, I don't expect Council of Elders and people where you have a problem in the party, they must be seen to be talking. And then they go there throwing their weight behind people and making things and, rather deepening their fashions. They should rather lay back so that where there is a problem, you can then call the contestant, hey, my brothers, we've looked at the results, this is the thinking of the delegates, would you please step down? But when before the elections, you have thrown your weight behind somebody and make it look like, you know, this is it, and how do you become an arbiter, you know, somebody who could be trusted?
I see.
You know, so those are the things that worry me, you know, and there's too much talk of always running to the media. Small thing and you are on the media. You know, media people, they are looking for news.
I see. The polls that he's talking about, does it take into consideration the larger picture that Nana Akufo-Addo will be accepted by the Ghanaian people? Are you only looking for a candidate to satisfy your parochial interests as an MPP, or you want a candidate who is winnable? And these are some of the arguments. These are some of the arguments. These are some of the arguments put forward by Alan. And Alan's argument is that Nana Akufo-Addo does not appeal to the general Ghanaian population. So because the end result is not to just vote for Nana Akufo-Addo to be MPP. Let's move to that the argument. The end result is for Nana Akufo-Addo to become president. Is he acceptable to the Ghanaian people?
What Amaliba is saying,
you should be asking of.
You must first win your party's
you have supported Nana Akufo-Addo all these years in the general elections. Yes, beat him. John Mahama beat him.
But this is irrelevant.
It is relevant. Is he acceptable to the Ghanaian people?
Something.
We're getting into that discussion now. Now look at it this way.
Oh God.
He's not the one.
My goodness.
He's not the one outside of the NPP who is saying this. Arthur Kennedy comes to the conclusions that Ghanaians would quiet properly, and I'm quoting him. Ghanaians would quiet properly wonder whether a leader who is not inclusive in his party and will not forthrightly condemn violence or talk of it in his party can unite Ghana and guarantee peace as president. So this is what Atake says is the bigger, fight ahead of Nana Akufo-Addo. That he doesn't see him to be a man who is ready to, bring about unity, inclusiveness, and speak against violence and all of that.
You see, I do not think that you condemn the leader only because his proteges, his people, his supporters, are doing things that, are not in the best interests of maybe other candidates. Clearly, I mean, if you are put into a pigeonhole and described as a Nana hater, and therefore people want to hurl abuses at you, it will not be the best. But you would also want to find out behind the scenes, maybe what is it that the leader is doing to bring about peace. I mean, if he invites those people who went to fight at the party headquarters, for example, and then talks to them, maybe it is out of the view of the media, so you wouldn't know that he's doing that. But you see, the Amaliba argument and the other argument about floating voters and coming out there, I agree perfectly with what the point being made by Kwekubaku. I mean, you have a fight, you have a hurdle to cross. You must first cross that hurdle before you go and meet the floating voters. And the people that you are appealing to do not seem to understand the issues that you are making for now, that this is the man they believe can deliver for them. So whether you appeal to floating voters or not, that opportunity would be lost to you so long as you are not able to clear the hurdle within your own party. That is the reality.
Interesting.
If you give a great hunter a catapult to go and fight with a lion, what are you doing? The larger picture is the Ghanaian people. You MPP produce a great hunter like Nana Akufo-Addo with a catapult. How is he going to fight the fight? That's what I'm telling them.
Okay, we'll be right back to continue with this part of the discussion. This is Newsfile. It's the most authoritative news analysis show. We'll be right back. And I am being informed that in the case that, all of them decided to back down, there will be only a national conference at one venue rather than a Congress of all 140,000, delegates. And now, let's continue with that part. Now, Mr. Eko, to end, sorry, but I'm giving him a lot of the time because this is his party and he is at the forefront of a lot of the things that they are supposed to do as far as their constitution and elections are concerned. Amalba points to the fact that the most important and bigger picture you need to be looking at is which candidate can bring, victory in 2016. Arthur Kennedy says, I believe that regardless of one's view of Afoko and Japan, we have an obligation to support them as our leaders. Nanado disagrees. I believe that we should not settle our differences with violence and that the only things we should take to our headquarters are the NPP Constitution and the Bible. Nanado and his associate disagree. I believe that we should follow our constitutionally mandated process for choosing a flag bearer and his supporters disagreed until they were forced to retreat by principal party members like myself. That's not a candidate you need for 2016. That's what Arthur Kennedy is saying.
You see, that to a very large extent is wishful thinking. You need to go through a delegates conference for the delegates to choose you. It's not a matter of a selection. There are some people look at the field, across the field, and say, look, this man will appeal to floating voters, so we have selected him. You are going through a contest, and you are bound by the results of what the delegates will say. So you might have a very nice idea as to which of the candidates you think would best, lead the party to, an electoral victory. But if the delegates decide otherwise, then there you have it.
That's the point you are making, and Mr. Ekwetu is pointing out to you that there's a first hurdle. The people in the home must first decide that you will appeal to floating voters. This appears to be the decision of the delegates. They say Nana appears to be the one we want to go.
When I hear what most of them are saying, that's the delegates, and I've heard my senior Oyiko to also make that point, that he has gone 3 times. He's marketable. That in itself takes away what he has said, because he has gone 3 times. If he were marketable,
he has gone 3 times, just like Mills.
If he were marketable, he would have been present now.
Just like Mills.
Is it possible that you can send your produce to market and you'll be bringing them back home every day? Because the produce are not acceptable to the buyers. So, and I hear them also say that, oh, he has suffered for a long period of time. So one begins to wonder whether they are not putting up Nana Akufo-Addo for sympathetic reasons.
Did you hear these sentiments leading up to the 3rd time selection of Professor Mills?
That what?
He suffered for a long time. He deserves, this opportunity and so on.
You see, when we were making those comments, we looked at our opponent, and we saw that this time around, it's not an incumbent. Is it a question now? Answer me. So if you are doing your permutations, don't just look at one side. Be frank enough to look at the other side. Is it somebody whom, when you bring, can break the back of the opponent? That is what they have failed to do. And that's where myself and Arthur Kennedy are pointing to. But oblivious of that, they are still saying that Nana should go. But there are instances where you want to give somebody a position, then you say that you are a nice man, but because of this, we'll give it to the other person. That's the kind of thing I want them to be looking at.
Judge, do you also feel the same way as Alan's team do, that to have the national organizer of the party, together with other regional organizers, go to Alan and suggest to him that we are on the ground, we are doing the organization. We think that for the purposes of party unity and all the reasons that they have spoken about, you should consider, stepping down so that we don't have a contest.
Well,
They say it's blackmail. Do you agree with them that it's blackmail?
well, you see, you can only look at it when you look at it from various sides. First and foremost, like Kweku said much earlier on, it's an opinion they hold. And I think that opinion are diagnosis. Everybody's entitled to one. So we can treat that as an opinion. But let's come to the real issues. You see, my worry is not about who is doing what, whose camp is doing what. Because
no, you don't think it is wrong for executives of the party
I'm coming there.
to go to a candidate who has lost,
something, I'm coming
so
there.
to speak, quote
Yes,
unquote,
I am saying
and
that.
ask him to step down?
No, what I'm saying is that, you see, for me, my worry is about the democratic credentials that we need to show.
You are
As
enjoined to show by
yes,
the Constitution?
Yes, as political parties. That the party has gone to sit down, promulgate a constitution for itself, lay out a roadmap as to how our candidate will be selected. And then midway, they want to change. Some people think that they must make a detour and take a certain position that is not within the confines of that country. That worries me a lot. Because like I keep saying, there are two major political parties in Ghana now, the MPP and the NDC. Whatever is happening in terms of the democratic credentials of each party should be a worry for all Ghanaians.
Do you remember the calls on Dr. Akosua Gabra when he attempted to contest Professor Mills? What was wrong with it? To call on him to step down and to get out of it and allow him to go uncontested. What's wrong about it?
You see, the whole point is that's why I'm saying that, look, Amalima makes a fine comment when it is that even then, Professor Mills was a sitting president. When Spio Gabra wanted to come, and eventually he said that he had listened to, people are bound to advise people. But I'm saying that the way this one is going, where the whole elders, organizers, and they are swooping in on one candidate out of the several, why is nobody asking Adainimo to give up?
He's also been told, and he says he's consulting.
Listen, he has said that he's also consulting, but who has, I mean, have you heard anybody go out there and say Adainimo, no, get out, or Kofi Amaya, get out? Why is he Alan? That is for me my point. It's like you are creating an unequal playing field. And it is not democratic in nature. Parties must show that true democracy works, as we showed when Nana Konedu decided to contest Professor Mills. We allowed her.
You did?
Of course, the result in
Sunyani. It was not exactly allowing her.
Bottom line is that we went to the vote, delegates voted. Nobody came out to say I was intimidated or a gun was put on my head not to vote for.
You don't need anybody to have said it.
But we went through the process. Whatever the results were, right. Ghanaians saw it. We went ahead to win an election. We went ahead.
Nobody even responded to a greeting.
You see, but the position is that, you see, international best practices must be the things that must guide us. You see, for me, I am not worried at all whether it's Alan or whoever they bring, because, hey, Akufo-Addo for after 2 years of campaigning, the current president, John Mahama, used how many months? Less than 6 months to make nonsense of all that. So really, now that he has a 4-year, I don't see any of them coming close in terms of taking over in 2016.
I see.
But I'm saying that, you see, it behoves on all of us as Ghanaians to ensure that even where the NPP will remain in opposition, their credentials should show that they are a credible opposition party that will help us move forward as a nation. And for me, that is the most important thing.
Koko, shouldn't the party be concerned when its own members, important key members like Arthur Kennedy, come out to make the comments that he's making? He's saying that he's making very honest critique of Nana-Addo. He's been, isolated and attacked. Mr. Ikotu says that's very bad. Obviously, it's not the best thing to do to him. He says that he has never heard Mustafa Hamid, who says to him that he has an agenda to destroy Nana. He says he's never heard Mustafa Hamid, by inference, Nana-Addo or Nana-Addo cast doubt on the standing of those who invaded the party's headquarters, the headquarters of our party with guns and cutlasses as members of our party. Are they good members while I am bad? How can we persuade Ghanaians that we love them when we seem to hate our own so much? How can a member of the NPP threaten to burn Kwabena Ejapon quote, like they bent his father, unquote, and not suffer the condemnation and opprobrium of us all. How will Nana, as president, tolerate critics when he cannot tolerate them as a leader of his party? As my late mother loved to sing. Okay, that's okay. So these are the things he's saying, and he's saying you're putting the wrong candidate up.
Well, I think he should direct that to the delegates. Sell that message to the delegates, October 18th, and let's see what the delegates say in response to his message. But I recall Akufo-Addo, Alan Tremanti, and J. Kufuor, President J. Kufuor, issued statements deploring what had happened at the party headquarters, the recent one. I recall all these three leaders, public statements that were published in many sections of the media to the effect that what had happened was wrong and unfair to the image of the party.
He said he expected an outright condemnation. He didn't see that.
What was issued amounted to a condemnation. You don't choose somebody's language for him. That's your choice. You want him to use certain words. The effect of the statements that all these three gentlemen issued was to deploy what had happened at the party headquarters. But do you recall that the party chairman, all of us, said that matter should be made a police case for criminal investigations?
Right.
But do you recall that the party chairman was suggesting that this is an internal party matter?
Yes,
and that should be handled by the party? What has my brother Atake said to that effect? You see, here is it. The party leadership itself do not even want to bring this thing within the realm of criminal investigations so that it could be sanctioned and punished, which is what I believe should have been done. So why are we picking and choosing and targeting Akufo-Addo relative to that? Look, there have been many attempts to tag Akufo-Addo as a violent man. It began way back. Because of time, I cannot be able to refer to some of them here, but it began when the AFC, we organized Kume Preku, and we were shot at to the extent that 4 people died in the streets of Accra by people who came out from the castle, the seat of government, and ACDR shattered guys. They still pinned it on Akufo-Addo and the AFC. I have Vincent Asise's statement here, and I know Akufo-Addo's response to it. It's consistent, but it's never worked. Or die be die, which was used in recent times. And the whole point was that he was out there to perpetrate violence before, during, and after elections. Come the end of the Supreme Court case. Listen to what Akufo-Addo said. After indicating that he had called President John Dramani Mahama and congratulated him, this is what he said. As I said earlier, whilst I disagree with the court's decision, I accept it. I accept that what the court says brings finality to the election dispute. We shall not be asking for a review of the verdict, so we can all move on in the interest of our nation. Everything in my bones, in my upbringing, and in what I have done with my life thus far makes it imperative that I accept a decision made by the highest court of the land. However much I disagree or dislike, I dislike or disagree with it. I am saddened by the verdict, and I know many of our supporters are saddened too. However, for the sake and love of our country, we must embark on a path that builds rather than destroys to deal with our disappointment. This is not
no option than to do this.
Mr. Rawlings had an option. You guys praise him all the time. The man who had even overthrown the constitution by violence, but sat on us 11 years, ruled us now constitutionally 8 years, and exited according to the constitution. We are supposed to clap for him. Because he had option? Come on, we clapped for him. We congratulated him. That in spite of everything, when his 8-year tenure came, he exited. And people said, that's good for Ghana. And indeed, promoted Ghana.
Okay.
Here we are being told that somebody who accepts the court verdict and declares it publicly and asks his supporters to come on board, had no option. So we need not clap for him. That's what we're being told. Now, please, you ask some, this is just tangential, it is perhaps point of irrelevance, but somehow you had a banter with my brother over it, so I might as well introduce
Yeah, quickly, we want to end this here and then move on to the other issues.
The Mills Spielgabra saga. And this is my own newspaper. We interviewed Spielgabra as well as Ameto Kwame, who was then his spokesperson. And this was 21st December 2006 edition. And Spielgabra was this. We'll quote, it says, Mr. Spielgabra, who held 2 ministerial positions in the SY NDC government, communication and education, and was also Ghana's ambassador, so and so and so. He said delegates were tired of being in opposition and would therefore elect him, that's Spielgabra, who is capable of securing power for them in the 2008 elections. According to Ameto Kwame, Spielgabra's campaign manager, the delegates, quote, are looking for somebody who will go beyond the 44 to 45% margin, somebody who appeals to the generality of the electorate. We are looking for a new, more dynamic, more courageous, more result-oriented flag bearer who can deliver. And this is Spielgabra, and he's the choice of the delegates. Please, just one last one. Alhaji Idris Mahama, the longest-serving member of the NDC among the aspirants, was hopeful that his long service stood him in good position to be elected as a flag bearer. His position has always been that the election of a flag bearer for the party was not enough, but that the elected flag bearer should eventually receive the mandate of Ghanaians to rule them. He maintains that he is the one to do that and would start by bringing back NDC members who had left the party. According to him, he is the unifying force to bring all Ghanaians together for the common purpose of developing the country. The delegates obviously didn't listen to these two gentlemen. They went for the one who had been tried and tested. I rest my case. Interesting.
And apart from the questions of violence, which you are responding to and suggesting that Akufo-Addo cannot be tagged with it, Mr. Akuto, I'd like you to end with you so that we take a break at this point and come back. Okay. But there's the other part of it. Beyond, violence, there's the question that's being raised about corruption within the party itself, the executives, and Asa Kennedy doesn't see Nana being able to properly fight that. He got a reaction from Mustafa Hamid, who said, and I quote, we are all human beings and may have our deficiencies, but Nana Addo's deficiencies do not include corruption. They do not include violence, and they do not include exclusion. Then he said Nana Addo is unblemished when it comes to corruption, and that as Attorney General, he never drew 1 liter of fuel from government coffers. He paid for his own security, never lived in a government bungalow, paid extra from his own pocket in order to sleep in hotels when he went abroad, etc., etc., and all those are public record. This banter, how does the party intend to stop it? Because it's obviously not good for the party.
Well, I've always said that so long as you have a contest, you will have supporters, because every leader has his own supporters. It is the way we do things, always running to the media, that leads to some of these difficulties. And that's why I was calling on the elders of the party to be, stand at arbiters, very neutral arbiters who, when there are problems, can always call the people to order. Now, if you watch your dirty leader in public, you are only giving ammunition to the other side to use against you.
I'm sure you've given quite a lot to the NDC already.
Well, so those are the issues. I mean, whether there's corruption, I don't know whether he's ever been president for us to see how he's going to deal with his ministers, So I don't know this corruption aspect. I don't know where to start from. I mean, when you talk of corruption, corruption where he finds himself as a leader managing something with some people for which reason he had shown proclivities towards that kind of thing. I don't know.
My invitation to you was to speak to your party people and everybody else how to avoid this, because we all know it doesn't help you. It's only hurting you.
Exactly.
You're bleeding. You're hemorrhaging.
I have made that point several times that don't let us run to the media and let the I don't believe in this disciplinary committee always maybe sending someone to disciplinary could be punished and arrest, but then let the elders be ready to call people to order, to advise them, to talk within the party, instead of always going out and issuing statements. Because once you issue a statement, it's out there, somebody wants to react, and then there's no stopping. You don't know where you are going to stop. You say this, somebody will say something else, but this exclusion and the rest should be looked at. It's a very serious matter when somebody says that people are being excluded. So if you have a fold, a group of people who are always around a particular leader, and they are the only people who talk, what about the rest? Are they not party members? Can we make use? Can we find some of these people who, perhaps with a greater respect, also talk sensibly, that they could be brought on board to be seen to be helping? But we have just a group of people always around. We had a teacher we named Always Around.
And maybe they should be brought on board, not in terms of token inclusivity, like Arthur Kennedy says. He says when he was brought in, it was just token inclusivity. It wasn't really, something that Nanado meant to do. So briefly, and then we move on.
First and foremost, you see, when Kweku tries to paint Nanado as though he was the best thing that happened to the MPP, I worry a bit about that. Yeah, I mean, of course, by implication. What I'm saying is that first and foremost, you read out what Nanado said on the day that he lost the petition, and said that by conduct, he has always lived about. But with the fast track case, was he not the Attorney General at the time? Was he not?
Yes, he was.
Didn't he go for a review? That review, at the time he went for a review, hadn't the highest court of the land given a decision? So it is not true to put it that always he accepted what the highest by conduct. And indeed, when Kweku talks about the Kumi Preku issue, the reality on the ground is that whatever Nanado is involved in, there is violence characterized with it. It is clear. It
you
is
think
true.
That's a fair statement?
It's a fair statement because, continue. Then if Nanado's director of communications at the time,
you seriously think it's a fair statement to say that whatever is involved in there is violence?
I can give you, several instances. And I'm saying that
it is this same Arthur Kennedy.
Yes.
Who spoke in defense of Nanado in 2008
and
said that as far as Nanado is concerned, not a single drop of Ghanaian blood will occasion in the course of the election.
Yes. Now he has listened. Yes, he has come out to say today that he believes that Nanado supports violence by implication, if you read his statement. And I'm saying that was his director of communications.
Okay.
If a frog comes out to tell you that, look, the crocodile is dead in the river, you must believe him. So that is really the point. Secondly, and for me, most importantly,
then you should be happy about that.
The corruption issue that you raised. Why? Today, within the NPP party itself, they are talking about dubious forest accounts and things like that. Who was their flag bearer? Who was in charge of the party at the time? Was it Nanado? So when people are talking about corruption, clearly, even if he cannot, as flag bearer, put his house in order, we shouldn't trust him with the resources of this country.
I see.
And that is what the position. No, I'm coming from the fact that you people yourself.
But when you talk about corruption in Jida, don't you point at the president?
Yes.
But by implication, what you are saying, what you are saying,
corruption, is that not the case?
Proven, is it proven?
Some people are having asked to refund money.
Which court has made that?
Okay, anyway. All right.
Dubious forest transactions and things like that.
Gentlemen, we need to move on. Go a minute.
Yeah, clearly it has been said.
All right. Thank you. A minute.
I am intrigued by my brother Lou's attempt to challenge the point I made about all die be die and the court verdict, the outcome of the verdict and a nice concession statement. And he links it, surprisingly, to the fast track court case. I can't believe it.
That's how he chooses to make his analysis.
There's no material. No, it doesn't have to choose. There's no material basis for it.
You made a point.
Can I make my point?
You made a point that Nana
we're talking here of
accepts.
violence. No, wait. The element, the principal point being made here, the thrust of the submission was the question of violence all die be die is linked to violence. That is, you perpetrate violence before, during, and after election. That was the argument I made. And then I made the point that the man accepted it. He said, I disagree, but I accept and won't go for review. The principal point here is that he did not perpetrate violence. The fast track court case, he disagrees. That's the government. Disagreed and went for a review, which is a constitutional option.
All right.
And
okay.
I'm saying that,
goodness.
Okay. No, but of course, he was Attorney General. He led the charge. Yeah,
All right.
not violence.
Musa Abato.
No, when I'm saying that everything shows that he was being violent. All this time, all that, he starts beating people and things like that. After they all died to die, consistently, all died to die.
Musa Abato in Kumasi says something. I totally support lawyer Ikweotu's submission.
You celebrate a coup d'etat.
Gentlemen,
Gentlemen, member of MPP.
Gentlemen, okay.
You are wearing MPP clothes.
All right. George and Abi.
Let's be fair.
All right. Thank you very much. Musa Abata and Kumasi says something. I totally support lawyer Aikweotu's submission. Whether we have law to punish those who did that shameful act or not, we should condemn it. Samuel Bryan Boabing in Awoshi says this is the time for the NPP to collectively say no to the apostles and disciples of division and to say it loudly to them that enough is enough. Zion Inwa says we should remember that it was disunity that caused the NDC in 2000 elections. It was disunity that caused the NPP in 2008 election. A divided house cannot stand. We need a united NPP in 2016. Kofi Amwakon Jampa in Amsterdam says if Alan appeals to the floating voters as they claim, why not persuade Alan to join NDC? NPP knows what is good for them. Nana all the way. Kweku Owusu Mensa in Germany says every NDC member wants Alan to be the flag bearer. Is that what the NDC wants? The NDC wants the NPP to lose the election. This behavior of the NDC make me sick. Let the NPP bring Nana and you, the NDC, win. Obeng Amunti in Akroso says the fact of the matter is that NDC is afraid of Nanado. They fear that Nana will scrutinize their corruptible deeds and prosecute them. Ghanaians are wide awake. We will vote massively for Nana come 2016. Kodia Bright sends this from Nkoko and he says, so why this sudden crusade for Mr. Alan Chirmanting? What is it that the NDC is afraid about Nana? If Nana is an ordained president, he will surely be. Thanks for your numerous messages. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show.